Boy, good morning. This is Olu Fakola Dev. Idin Kai Ifa Temple. Good to see you all. Good to see you all. Thank you all for tapping in. Thank you all.
Boye gbogbo awo aboru boye ẹ̀yin babaláwo èèyàn ìbọrù boye
Boy, this is Olu Fakola Dev Idin Kai Ifa Temple. And this is our Ile Juba Temple service. So let us begin with morning prayers on this Oshe Ifa day. Ashe. Good morning to all the folks on Clubhouse, on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, everybody. Peace, peace. Mojuba loro, mojuba leda, mojuba loro mare. Mojuba bobo rumale, mojuba boy male, mojuba boy gun tembile solo mare. Mojuba, moshungware, mojuba gwere, mojuba fragamos, mojuba to, mojuba flood, mojuba palao corriente, mojuba flippy zaloeco, mojuba gonjobi, mojuba mieye, mojuba shamola, mojuba shalanko, mojomi tonade, mojuba shubi, mojuba basage manade from the first, I want baba, tio bado tu, ashe. Jogbe. He who hears people's pleas accept please. He who hears people's pleas approves please. He who talks to people and ensures that the talks are completely absorbed. He who hears people's pleas accept please. Name of V5. He who hears people's pleas approves please. Name Shodai. He who talks to people and ensures that the talks are completely absorbed. His name of Orishanla. Orishanla, you the person most human beings. Person most one cannot fail to impress one. Strike frogs on some rainfall. Blow frogs on some downpour. It is whatever that courage will point. You tells the earth or earth accepts. Whether the big rat tells earth or earth accepts. All what I tell you, if I please accept them and approve them. Oturete, to show gratitude upon gratitude is all about gratitude. To display benevolence upon benevolence is the all about benevolence. Whoever does not show gratitude for yesterday's benevolence, such a person not receive today's gratuity. Use the declaration for to the 4 and 1 in Rumaland, going to my way, out of East Fuji. I'm grateful, I see my gratuity. I'm grateful for yesterday's favor, I'll see today's gratuity. Oturete, we are very grateful. Ashe. Awa dupe. Awa bure, awa dupe o, awa bure, adupe ana o, awa bure tuneb, Olodumare, awa dupe, awa bure, awa dupe o, awa bure, adupe ana o, awa bure tuneb. Ori ẹni àwa dúpẹ́, àwa bùrẹ́, àwa dúpẹ́ o, àwa bùrẹ́, àdúpẹ́ àná o, àwa bùrẹ́ tòníbù, èrò mọ̀lẹ́, àwa dúpẹ́, àwa bùrẹ́, àwa dúpẹ́ o, àwa bùrẹ́. Adupe ana ua obure tunebo legun lorisha. Olodumare and the divinities. We ask for your forgiveness. We ask that you would forgive us for any time we might have broken taboo, anything that we might have thought that was incorrect, anything that we might have done that was against our destiny. The roast went to pounding down without soup can be very difficult to consume. These were the declarations we fought to a tutu, the child of our Gunneregum. He who's full of bad character, he whose bad attitude had prevented him from entering Tifa's domain. Now come to solicit on behalf of Itutu. We've come to beg on behalf of Itutu. Father, please be patient, overlook this provocation. Those who beg on behalf of Itutu. A ruling responded by saying, those who beg on behalf of Itutu, those who solicit on behalf of Itutu. How many children does Ifa have that he would cast for now? Those who beg on behalf of Itutu. Share. Ogbelara, Ifa, we ask at this time that you will continue to ward off death, ward off sickness, ward off cases, controversy, ward off fights, ward off litigation, ward off losses, ward off outright fights, ward off witchcraft, negative energy, ward off all negative forces from us, ward off cancer, ward off diabetes, ward off AIDS, ward off COVID-19, ward off all the challenges of this world. Bring forth in its place long life, good spouse, good children, money, wealth, victory, healing, joy, and all the good things of life. If I would call on Odu Ugbelara. Orumla said it is time to sleep. I echo it is time to sleep. When the day dawned, I met Orumla in the 16th room, where he covered his head with a flowing gown full of lice. He was wearing a dress full of bloodstains. He was snoring heavily. They told him that a delegate from his side arrived. Orumla inquired about what the delegate had brought. They told him that he brought 2 rats with him running, 2 fish graceful in swimming, 2 birds swift in flight, and 2 goats with big livers. Orumla said that is not enough to wake him up. I admit my ignorance. Please educate me. Motana Karaba, I hide myself in your bosom and survive. Motona Karaba, the Don Kang masqueraded Sagwajon repeatedly. The Don Kang masqueraded Sagwajon repeatedly to perform rituals because of children. You are the leaders, we are the followers. Leaders are the ones who show the followers wisdom. Aruna told them to get alligator pepper, to get cola nut, to get bitter cola, to get alcohol. The Akapo got the alligator pepper, he got the cola nut, the bitter cola, and he got the alcohol. That is right, as now he is fully awake. Orumla, when you are fully awake, please look at me with eyes of compassion. It is with eyes of compassion that the heavenly stars used to look at the stars below. Orumla, when you're fully awake, please look at me with eyes of told one to secure great wealth. There's such good eyes that the heavenly stars used to look at the stars below. Orumla, when you're fully awake, please look at me with eyes of told one to secure a good spouse. There's such good eyes my spouse should use in looking at me with. Orumla, when you're fully awake, please look at me with your eyes which help one to bear many children and such good eyes a child should use and look at a well-decorated plate. Before long, not too far, join us in the midst of all human life. Oh shit, Tara. If I please, at this time, gather all the ashe of our prayers as we invoke the Odu Oshetura. Support us, Ifa. We ask that you would assist us so that we will manifest our highest and greatest goals. Oshetra, tiny are the feet of Tubu. The stripe of a chameleon is not big enough to abuse his headgear. Had it been enough to abuse his headgear, I would have taken it home and adorned my head with it. These we Ifa's decorations to Awurala. We're going on a spiritual mission to Jebelen. We've called Locust Beans and Pamani, calling the salt seller and maker rich. We've called Arurala with respect and the Jebelen. Osherula's a good awu. Oshetra. I kick any baggy sa. The abstract sharply against the tree cast the five for Rumla when he used to receive Iba and I share from all of them on. If in the world you should be wealthy, you surely be wealthy. I kick in a baggy sign, the mouth of an amour, Zaziba and I share in the mouth of an amour. No church have joy, you surely have joy. I kick in a baggy sign, the mouth of an amour, Zaziba and I share in the mouth of an amour. No church have victory, you surely have victory. I kick in a baggy sign, the mouth of an amour, Zaziba and I share in the mouth of an amour. No church have all the good things of life, you should surely have all good things of life. I kick in a baggy sign. The mouth of the ones I deep on our share in the mouth of the war. To essay may be so, surely shall it be. Ashe Orisha lẹ́nu mi o, Ashe Orisha lẹ́nu mi. Gbogbo tí mo bá màmá wí o, ìlú mọ́lẹ̀ ò bá. Ifá ò bá o, Ashe Orisha lẹ́nu mi. Bí mo dúró, tí mo súre. Bí mo bẹ̀rẹ̀, tí mo súre. Ẹni mọ́júlọ́ mi ò fa wá mórí orí ẹni làrúrí ẹni àṣẹ bòbòrè tán sùn Ifá ọba lọ́run àti bàjájú Ifá ọba lọ́run ó ṣe àrú ìlà Ifá ti bọ́. All of them are in the divinities. We ask that you will continue to ward off death, ward off sickness, ward off cases, ward off controversy, ward off fights, ward off litigation, ward off losses, outright fights, witchcraft, and negative forces from us. Bring forth to us long life, wealth, good spouse, good children, victory over adversity, peace of mind, healing, and all the good things of life. Ifá, we ask that you would protect us, all of us, as we travel, as we move in the world. We ask that you would give us great protection and healing, and help us to understand and introduce this sermon and allow it to be integrated into our system. Emma kamimene amo, Emma kamimene ano, Emma kamimene adelokun, tamuole tori ifa aloni mi, ebora timpanini, ene banami, ati ifa lelejo. Ifa, we also ask at this time that we would be able to hear a good word of Ifa. Move my ego out of the way so that we can hear you, Olodumare. So that we can hear Ifa, we can hear Oromila, Ashe, Aboru, Aboye, Boshishe. Thank you all so much for tuning in, tapping in with us this Sunday. This Sunday is also wonderfully Oshe Ifa. So we've done our Oshe Ifa rituals, but we just want to give thanks for all the blessings of Ifa. I want to ask those people who are on Instagram if you can let me know if you can hear me, because there seem to be some challenges there. And if you cannot, then we'll try to correct that. So just let me know. But with this Sunday's service, we're talking about the concept of influencing the influencers. And so when we see this idea of the influencers and influencing, what I'm talking about is leadership. And oftentimes now on the internet, people say things like, oh, I'm an influencer. I'm an influencer. And what, in essence, an influencer means is that you are a person who's a leader. And if you are a leader, then you need to have the certain qualities that are best and befitting of a leader. And what we want to talk about is what Ifa says about leadership and following the examples of good leadership and what makes a good leader. All right. So those of you who are on Instagram, we're trying to correct that problem. So what you can do is you can go to YouTube, or you can go to Clubhouse, or you can go to Facebook, any of those platforms, because it seems that Instagram is giving us a problem. So you can go to you can go to any of those platforms other than Instagram. So in terms of that, let's begin. Let's analyze, first of all, what is leadership? So leadership, in essence, is the individual who stands up to in essence, make certain sacrifices for the greater good of the collective. That's what I always look at a leader. A leader is an example. A leader is one's father. A leader should be one's mother. The mother is the first teacher. Father is also a supportive teacher in the family. But when we look at these aspects of what leadership is an individual who, as I said before, takes the opportunity and the sacrifice to assist others in becoming great themselves. And good leaders are also good followers. They're good individuals who can see what needs to be done and then they do it. They're self-starters. But along with that, with leadership and with being an influencer and all of those things, there comes responsibility. So when we say we are leaders, when we say we're influencing individuals, we have to take responsibility for our actions. Many times, if you are a leader, even if you aren't doing anything quote unquote bad, your actions in the public eye will be analyzed as if they're under a microscope. So when we embark on this process of leadership, it reminds me of a book that I have been reading called Extreme Ownership. And when we think of this idea of extreme ownership is the ability to own all the consequences, own the failures, and also share the successes. Because if the collective fails, oftentimes it is due to poor leadership. Oftentimes, many great basketball teams, football teams, they have extremely good talent on the team. They have batters that can hit very well. They have wide receivers who can catch very well. But if it is a poor coach, then that team will not do well. So oftentimes, if a team has extreme talent and they continue to give up wins to losses, then oftentimes, as I said before, the coach is the problem. The coaching, the coach needs to do better. And when we speak about that coaching and that leadership, what does that mean when we look at it from a team perspective? It means that you need to pick the right people to do the right job. We need to be able to put the right people in place. And we need to be able to look at folks and assess their strengths and their weaknesses. And then we need to be able to do things to enable those folks who might be weak in one area to become strong eventually. So leadership is a huge job, and it's not glamorous, as many people who call themselves influencers try to put it out there in the universe and the internet world to be like it's this fantastic thing. But the aspect of leadership on many levels is, as I said before, the leader takes responsibility for the collective failure. And the leader shares responsibility of the collective success. So an example is if a football team or a basketball team, many different teams y'all might know of might have great players. And then finally, when the coach is able to find the right key and put everybody in the right place and enhance their strengths and fortify their weaknesses with strengths, then when the team wins, perhaps let's say the leader of the team, not the coach, but let's say LeBron. LeBron might say, "What a great team effort," even though we saw LeBron score the majority of the points. My point behind it is a good leader shares the responsibility of the collective win, the collective success of the group. But poor leadership oftentimes takes all the spoils of the win, of the successes for themselves. An example of that, let's analyze the Odu Ifa Ofun Meji Epa. Ifa says a kola nut breaker is expected to consume 2 lobes. An avaricious or greedy elder will consume 3. After consuming 3 lobes, he will carry his load by himself and move away. These were Ifa's declarations for the leader, who shall eventually become the follower. He was advised to offer Ebo. He refused to comply. Now, it was their inability to act properly, and it was their refusal to speak the right words at the right and appropriate time. These were the things that turned the leader into a follower. It was their inability to act properly. Ifa is saying here, this is the story actually of Ofumeji. And many of you who are Ifa practitioners, you know that Ofumeji, the Odu Ofumeji, was actually the first Odu. And when we look at the order, now we know that the order of the Odu Ifa it starts with what? Ejiogbe. And in the 16 Mejis, Ofumeji Epa is now the 16th Odu. How did that happen? Well, Ifa says that initially, Ofumeji, as I said before, was the first Odu that came, the first in the lineup. And Ofumeji was a leader of all the 16 Odu. And Ofumeji was the type that whenever anyone would offer a bow, Ofumeji would take his off the top. Ofumeji was just like, okay, let me get all of the he goat. I got the he goat. Let me get all the cola nuts, and then I'll give a little to Oshe Meji, and then I'll give the rest to from Ejiogbe to Erete Meji. So that was the way that Ofumeji worked. If there was a he goat to be given, he would take the heart, he would take 4 legs and the body, and then give the 4th leg away to be divided amongst the other Odus. That's not fair. That's why this Odu says a kola nut breaker is expected to consume 2 lobes. An avaricious elder, avaricious basically means a greedy elder, will consume 3. After consuming 3 lobes, he will carry his load by himself and move away. Ifa is saying that that was the way that Ofumeji acted. Ofumeji took all those Odus, took all the spoils, and then would walk away, and everyone else would be starving. On the other end, Ejiogbe was at the end of the totem pole. And what Ejiogbe would do, Ejiogbe would take that little speck of meat that he had, that little speck that was left over from the total of that 4th leg, and Ejiogbe would then share it and take his little piece and share that little piece with all the other Odus. And as he would do that, all the Odu Ifa, the first 16, they began to think like, man, Ejiogbe is really, really a good Odu, really a good personality in the world. Ejiogbe thinks about everyone else before he thinks of himself. Ejiogbe shares all of the spoils. Perhaps we should make Ejiogbe the leader, because we already know his character is that of a leader. So what ended up occurring is Ejiogbe then, basically the first 16 Odus up to about, from Oyekumeji to Iretemeji, they formed a mutiny. And that mutiny went against Ofumeji in particular and Oshemeji as well. And what they did is they democratized the process of who the leader should be. They elected Ejiogbe the leader of the first 16, or the Urindin Logun, the Merindi Logun. They elected Ejiogbe and reduced Ofumeji to the last. And it was because of Ofumeji's actions. So if I'm saying here that we should not be leaders who will take all the glory for ourselves. We should, if we are leaders, we should share. We should share the glory. We should share the spoils and the success, and then take responsibility for the failure. And if we do that as leaders, if we say, you know what, the reason why my son didn't do well on the test is because I didn't work hard enough. So next time I will work hard enough. And you take some of that energy, some of that negative aspect off of your children. And then your children will be able to see you as human. And then they will be able to also see not only your children, but your followers, those who are under you. They will begin to see that they themselves have a responsibility in this process of being great. Ifa also says when we look at leadership, being a leader is so important. And when you are a leader, it is important not to segregate people, not to leave people out that you might feel are invalid or that you might feel are folks who um, don't have anything to contribute or folks that you might insult because of the way that they might live their lives that you don't like, but it doesn't have anything to do with positivity or success. It's just something that you don't like about that person. Racist activities. Ifa is saying that those things are not good to practice, especially if you are a leader. In Otura Iwori, Ifa says, Obalara sent people on errand. They called all the animals in the forest. They called all the human beings in the forest, but they excluded us. By the power of Olodumare, and by the power of our Egbe in heaven, let the grasses rise up. Let all the shrubs rise up. Let the ones on the right rise up. Let the ones on the left rise up. We will go home and we will dance to Dun Dun. Ifa says on this Odu, what had occurred is that the king himself wanted to have a a big festival. And in the process, the king decided he would call all the people on the left side, all the folks on the right. He would call the various animals of the forest, but he excluded the birds. And he asked everyone, what I need you all to do is we need to clean the grasses, clear the grasses, cut the grasses down. And we'll do that so that we can have a stable area, a solid area that we can have our festival. So as he did this, he excluded these particular birds because he felt that they were invalid. And upon hearing this, the people cleared the area. But then the birds, they came back and they said, you know what? We've been excluded. We will invoke the grasses and we will invoke our Egbe in heaven to support us, to rise up against the king, to ensure that this festival does not happen. Ifa says that if there's a leader who engages in exclusivity and segregation, he will fail if he doesn't change his approach. Those who will make that leader to fail are going to be those who are overlooked and neglected. Those overlooked and neglected groups in the community, those are the ones who will ensure the failure of a, a decadent society. Ifa says that these individuals might be looked at as invalids. So the heavens, in essence, will rise up. The heavens, will mobilize to support the folks who have been left out. This is such a powerful verse. It not only speaks to the oppressed, this Ifa also speaks to the leader. This Odu says that we must not segregate. We should not exclude individuals in the desire to accomplish a collective goal. If they are part of the community, we should not exclude them. IFA says, in this regard, we also must have leaders that present themselves and are presenting, good examples. And when we have a good leader that presents a good example, what we need to do is what? We need to follow them and listen to them. We don't need to fight against good advice of leaders. Ifa says in the story, there's a story in the Odu Ofuega. Ifa speaks of a time when Orumila himself was traveling to the market. I believe it was Ajibomokun market. And as he was traveling, Orumila was going so far that he missed his exit. And he kept going, traveling. And as he traveled headlong in the total wrong direction of the market. And as he continued this process, the farmer saw Orumila and he knew who Orumila was. And he said, Baba, where are you going? And Orumila said, well, I'm going to the market, the Ejibomoko market. And the farmer said, wait, Baba, that market is not, you're going in the wrong direction. That market is in the totally different direction. You're about 4 miles off path. And what did Orumila do? Orumila was upset. And when I say he was upset, he didn't listen to the farmer. He actually ignored him. And the farmer persisted. He continued to talk to Orumila, Baba, you're going the wrong direction. You're going in the wrong direction. You're going in the wrong direction. Orumila did not listen to him. And finally, the farmer decided, you know what I'll do? I'm going to lay across the footpath. So the farmer then laid completely across the footpath. And as he laid across the footpath, it was in a way that Orumila would have to step over him to continue his way in the wrong direction. And there's a Yoruba proverb. I'm not completely familiar with it, but it is in essence taboo to step over a person within this capacity. So Orumila refused to step over him, so he was in essence forced to listen to him. So the farmer then said, Baba, let me take you to the market. And while Orumila was able to get to the market, Orumila was able to buy all the things that he needed, and everything went very well for him. After he did this, then Orumila he went back home, and as he went back home, he was able to, as Orumila went back home, his people, turn the light on, please. As Orumila got back home, his people were able to ask, Baba, what would you like this morning? Orumila basically told them, I don't want cola nuts. They said, let us offer you rat and fish. Orumila said, I don't want rat and fish. They said, Orumila, we have hen. Would you like hen this morning? When he got back home, and Orumila said, I don't want hen. They asked Orumila, do you want she-goat? Orumila said, I don't want any she-goat. They exhausted everything that they thought Orumila would take. Finally, they said, Baba, what do you want? Orumila then said, what I would like is, I want you to bring me the man who Sobona, who slept across the road, who slept across the path for me. I need you to support me by getting that individual, the one who slept across the path for me. That is the person. That is what I need. Find that man. And so they went to find that man. And once they found him, Orunmila then shared joy, shared support, and all those things. When we look at this word, I believe it's soobona, that word then became, it as that word evolves, it then becomes ajubona, subona. And what this means is an ajubona is an individual who is an example, a supporter, a person who will help lead others along the way in the right way. What we need is an individual. We need leaders who will be examples, leaders who will take the opportunity to sobona, to be the ajubona for many of us, to be the example, to be what a good godparent or Baba Ifa or Iya Ifa can be. We need that. Lastly, Ifa says in the Odu Ogbedi, a big boil exacerbates an understanding person. This was the Ifa for Orunmila when going to become the head of the lawmakers in the community. He was advised to offer Ebo. He complied. Before long, not too far, join us in the midst of joy. Come and witness all array of life. On this final verse I want to share for today, Orunmila was actually called to be the head lawmaker of a particular town. And this town was very interesting because this town was a place where they had a policy on crime that was really extreme, uh, tough. When you think about it, I want you to think about how America was on during the crack cocaine era. And we know about crack cocaine and how crack devastated many African American communities, Black and brown communities, and how crack cocaine was, in essence, not even in essence, it was a drug that was supported by the United States government. The government turned a blind eye and allowed individuals to bring crack cocaine into the low income communities in America. And what did they do? They made laws specifically around crack cocaine when we knew that crack and powder cocaine, there was no difference. I'm making this example for a reason. So when the US government did this, they had a thing called mandatory minimums. A mandatory minimum sentence for an individual who sold or used crack cocaine, while individuals who sold or used powder cocaine, they had less of a stigma, less of a charge, less years in jail. So we see these mandatory minimums in America, and this is like what happened in this particular town. They were extreme on crime. They said if anybody stole or did anything that broke the laws of our land, we should kill them. It doesn't matter if they stole soup out of a soup pot, we should kill them. It doesn't matter if it was a child who happened to grab a piece of meat out of their mother's pot without saying it. If it was publicized in the community, they would then go and kill that child. or they would then go and kill the person who stole an apple off of the shelf. That was how extreme this community was on crime. And when we looked at this, Orumila himself cast Ifa because he learned that they wanted him to be the head of the lawmakers of this area. He cast Ifa and he offered Ebo. Part of the Ebo that he was asked to offer, that Ebo was going to be eggs, raw eggs, and shea butter. Those were some of the things that he was going to use. So he offered his Ebo, and on that same day that he was installed as a leader, the people came to Orumila and said, "We've caught these children. They were at the coconut grove and they were eating coconuts. They stole these coconuts. We have to kill all of these youths." And apparently, some of Orumila's family was in the youths and that were captured. And they pressed him. They said, "Orumila, we need to make a decision now. You're the leader. You need to do what we are supposed to do. You need to get tough, tough, tough on crime and kill these youths immediately." So Orumila said, "I need to wait. I need to wait before I make this decision." So he went back in his room and he started contemplating. And Eshu Odara appeared to him, and he said, "Orumila, put one egg here, put the other leg here, rub your face with the shea butter so you look shiny like you've been sweating." So then Orumila did as he was asked. With his Ebo materials, he did all those things. Then he goes back when the people knock on the door. "Orumila, Orumila, you need to come in. You need to come and handle this business." He opens the door. He says, "Look, I don't feel well. I can't make a good decision today. Please, let's table this issue and decide it tomorrow." And they said, "No, no, you have to do it now. Act tough on crime now. We need you to kill these youths, execute them, and make an example of them today." Orumila said, "I can't." And just as he said that, Eshodar pressed the egg on this side and he spit out the egg yolk. It looked like vomit. They were like, "Oh, Orumila, you're sick. You need to get that covered. You need to handle that." Orumila then closed the door. They came knocking again shortly thereafter. "Orumila, Baba, you need to handle this. You need to handle this business now. You need to get to it. Get tough on crime now so we won't have problems later. We need to handle these youths. The executioner's waiting." He opened the door, and then Eshu Odara pressed the left side of his cheek, and more came out. And this time it got on the person who came to ask Orumila. And they said, well, Baba, we're going to have to make an exception. You are sick. You need to figure this out. Let's figure it out tomorrow." So as Orumila was able to figure things out, he learned that those youths had actually paid for those coconuts. And he let the people know the next day, "We need to change this law because this law does not make sense. It is in total, it is totally against everything we stand for, and it will end up leading to even more chaos. We've done so many people wrong up to this point. Now we need to change." So as Orumila did that, that is the way that community changed and was able to actualize their highest and greatest good. Orumila himself, when he did that, he exercised great leadership. Had he continued to follow that process, it would only lead to the further degradation of that society. So, in closing, what are we saying? What is IFA telling us? IFA is telling us that leadership is a good thing. Influencers and influencing is a good thing, but it is not a fashionable thing. It is not the aspect of things that one needs to do to be seen. It is the aspect of things that people need to do in order to heal and transform themselves and society. Good leaders must stand up. And as they stand up, they have to sacrifice some of themselves in order for the greater good of the society. As I said before, good leaders are good followers. You can't you can't lead if you don't know how to listen. You can't lead if you can't read a situation. You cannot be a great leader if you have not followed first. When we look at Ifa and Yoruba society, it is in many ways stratified. There's a hierarchy. And one thing I learned is that as a hierarchical society, what also is in effect is that your turn to lead will come soon if you follow correctly. If you live long enough, you will eventually become an elder worthy of veneration. This is leadership. So, as just as a child must follow, many of us have to follow. We have to shut up, sit down, and learn and listen. And that same quality is also supported by good leaders. Good leaders have done that. And they have to know, as Ofumeji said, when to speak appropriately. And another aspect of this thing called leadership that we're talking about and influencing that we're talking about is wisdom. Wisdom. It's not just wise words, it's wise actions, it's wise thoughts. Sometimes in family situations or in leadership situations, one might say something that might seem like, and that doesn't make sense. Sometimes I talk to my 7-year-old, I'm like, okay, what you need to do is close that door before you leave out the house and turn the light off. Why? I'll be right back. Sometimes you might have to let folks see. And the reason being is because they will learn. He learned that the reason why I say that is because I knew he was going away and it was going to be the whole day. So sometimes we as children, followers, we need to shut our mouths, sit down, and listen to what good leadership has to say so that eventually we ourselves will become great leaders. And in closing, I want to say thank you to great leaders who have led me, like my father, Robert Edmonds, also to my elders, Chief Shalagbere Popola. One thing I think about these leaders and elders is that one powerful aspect of their leadership is to be infectious. What I mean by that is a good leader wants to create more good leaders, wants to create people who will potentially surpass their own success in a particular area. So we have to have that aspect as leaders, that undying care and love for not only the people who are our followers, but to assist them in becoming great and even greater than us. Ashe, Abora boy. Thank you all so much for tuning in today. I want to make a couple of announcements. So that I believe this coming week, yes, this coming week, I would like to do Makings of Men. So I'm trying to figure that out. I usually do it every third Thursday. So I'll be traveling, but I will let you all know. Makings of Men has not been canceled. We're going to still have it this month. I might end up having to change a day. This Friday, we're going to have a particular class. I've been doing a series of classes on particular survival strategies during this time period. So what I want to switch the order. So this coming Friday is going to be about health and healing associated with IFA. We want to share some physical remedies, some processes of IFA, what IFA says, some things that we can do herbally on a small level to support ourselves and correct our health. This will be a very important discussion this Friday. So if you're interested, every Friday, 6 p.m. Well, I think it's going to be a different time. Probably, 6 p.m. Pacific time. We'll just keep it at that time. Also, if any of you are interested in becoming a member of Idinka, please let us know. If you like the things that we're doing here, please let us know. Please join. Please participate. Also, if you would like to donate, we are always open to any of those donations, and we use them to support the community. Once again, every 17 days, we have an Itarogun coming up soon. So every 17 days, we do a community divination and a community ebo. So those of you who are interested, please participate. Thank you so much again for joining us. And let us end as we began, with prayer. Olodumare, we ask that you would come and support us throughout the week. Please continue to ward off death, ward off sickness, ward off cases, ward off controversy, ward off fights, ward off litigation, losses and outright fights, ward off all challenges and disdain and issues from us, and bring to us all the good and wonderful things of life. Guide us, Olodumare. Protect us, Olodumare, and keep us safe throughout the week. Ashe, Aboro, Aboy, Aboshishe. Thank you all so very much for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you next time. Ashe. Thank you all so much. Have a great week.